We're back, folks. Joining us now by phone, 9th Congressional District, Congressman Doug Collins is with us. Congressman Collins, how are you this morning?
Well, I'm doing okay. A little tired, but it's one of those nights, good news and bad news. So we're all just looking at it as a positive. Let's move forward and see how we go from here.
Okay, good news, bad news. So we'll stay with the good news first. Congratulations on a decisive win over your opponent here in the 9th District. The 9th District has decided that they overwhelmingly want to send you back to Congress. And am I correct, will this be your 4th term that you're going back for?
Going into my 4th term, again, basically an 80-20. It shows, this district believes in the conservative values. It believes in the president. It believes in moving our country forward. And I just want to say thanks. It's been a great run. We're going to continue to earn that vote every day. And we're looking forward to even with a flipped majority in the House, we're looking forward to going back up and fighting with this president to continue these values on into 2020 and flip it back.
Well, people are, what people are waiting to hear now. This will be the first term that you will serve on the minority side of the aisle, correct? You've served all 3 of the other terms in the majority. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So what we're wanting to hear out here is what do you think we're going to see? I don't want to take time and do lay the blame. You say whatever you want, Congressman. I'm not interested in blame game this morning. I'm more interested in where are we at now, and what do you think we are going to see, not just in the 9th District across this country with a Democrat majority?
Well, I don't think there's any blame. I think it's some of what we had sort of expected. But here's what you see. You're going to see exactly in some ways what I faced when I first went to Congress in 2013. And that was a Senate that is solidly Republican. You're going to have a president that is Republican. And you're going to have a Democrat Congress who comes in, who's made a lot of promises, especially their socialists who have been elected, to do all kinds of things that they're going to find out they just can't do. And, so what we're going to see, unfortunately, is we're going to see gridlock. We're going to see spending bills that get put into not regular order. We're going to see, a slowdown in through congressional action on regulatory issues, those kind of things. What I don't think you'll see, and I think this is something we need to look at, I think we're going to check pretty heavy and pretty hard, especially in my committee, the Judiciary Committee, and others. I don't think you're going to see an immediate impeachment proceeding. I don't think you're going to see an immediate reopening of Kavanaugh. I think they're smart enough to know that the American people would reject that very quickly. So I think what you're going to see is they're going to try and present a populist face to start with, and we'll see how it goes. But again, I think the biggest thing is that they're going to run up against is the real fact that the Senate is Republican, the president is Republican, and they're not going to be able to do anything they want to do.
Well, Congressman, last night a lot of Democrats that did win on the congressional side. Other media outlets are talking about these are candidates that said they would not vote for Nancy Pelosi, but I feel very strongly that they're going to lockstep. And do you feel Nancy Pelosi will be the next Speaker of the House?
98% assured at this point. Remember what they said some of them said they wouldn't vote for Nancy Pelosi for Speaker. That's fine, but once they can vote for her and vote no in conference. But there's only about 7 of them that actually said they'd vote no on the floor. And that's where it matters. I mean, as far, if you really want to think about it, which is, good, it is sort of what we, politicized the speakership in ways that probably never should have, been thought of to begin with. But she'll have the votes in conference, and then she'll have the votes on the floor, and she'll have enough votes to let those who need to vote no on the floor vote no, and she'll be speaker. They had too much success in some of their races, especially with female candidates, with her still leading the way. She brings in over half of their entire money for the DCCC, over half by herself. So yes, I believe she'll talk about transition speaker, bringing on new leadership, bringing on new people. They'll give them some no throwaway jobs, and and she'll become speaker again. So I do look for January 3rd or 4th, what day we go back in, she will be the Speaker of the House.
Okay, what is? Let me just one more question concerning the Democrats, and then I'd like for you to tell us what we find in the upside for Republicans after this. But I have on the screen, it's a tough picture, Congressman, but I have Maxine Waters, Jerry Nadler, and Adam Schiff on my screen. And you said Judiciary Committee. Correct me, or let me refresh me. Who will now be the chair of the Judiciary? I know Maxine Waters will be the chair of the Finance Oversight Committee, which is
Financial Services.
Yeah, Financial Services, and Nadler will now chair which committee? Judiciary. Now Nadler has said publicly that he wanted to move forward with impeachment, and he wanted to move forward with that of the president and Kavanaugh. But you don't feel that'll be an immediate out of the box, or?
Well, no. Look, Jerry's trying to avoid a socialist primary in New York City. Okay, let's also be very practical here. There's some things he had to say, and he was being pushed to say because he has to look over his shoulder. In a neighboring district, Joe Crowley got beat by somebody who was an avowed socialist, and it happened in a primary. So that means Jerry is saying what he needs to say to the very, 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 very liberal base that he represents in New York City. But also, the one thing that you have not heard is those words uttered from anyone who will potentially be in leadership, like Nancy Pelosi's Steny Hoyer. Now, let me just be very clear. If they want to go that route, game on. If they want to go that route to take this president on, they want to go this route to take Kavanaugh on, it will be a fight like they've never seen. And also, it'll go zero place in the Senate, period. Won't go anywhere in the Senate. So if they want to spend their time doing that, that's great. We'll plan for 2020. They're going to go back in the minority, and President Trump will get reelected, and we'll move right on.
Adam Schiff, how hard do you think he'll continue to push, switch the gears on the Russian investigation, their Russian investigation in their direction, and push for the president's tax returns?
I think that you'll see. Now, that is something I think you'll see a good bit on, especially the issues that are a little bit more off the scale. I mean, the Russian investigation, which has been exhausted, and nothing's found. And I think the Mueller investigation, hopefully coming back and exonerating the president here fairly soon, will take some steam out of that as well. It is a concern with him and intelligence, because it's become such a committee that should not be partisan at all, and basically taking the intelligence of our nation and trying to protect us, and to become so partisan. But Schiff is a little bit different. In those issues, you could see, more push on, let's say that. And in the Ways and Means Committee, they do have the ability to try and, produce, so I think you'll see some show votes on the floor fairly soon. But they also recognize, and you heard several Democrats talking about this yesterday, and you hear some this morning, well, let's find ways to work. Let's go infrastructure. Let's do drug pricing. They're trying to avoid everything in the world because they realize that chaos does not sell.
What does Maxine Waters bring to Financial Services Oversight Committee there? That what do we have to prepare that we may see out of her when she has actually come out several times and says she wants revenge? I won't say quote, but we know in general, like revenge, get even, all those things. It's some of the things, the rhetoric on her side. What do financial services have to look forward to? The only way I know how to put it with Maxine Waters.
Good luck. That's what you're going to say. She's not in a position to do the other, quote, revenge, stuff. I mean, she'll work on, basically, the author of Dodd-Frank and work to get that through, a couple of years ago, 8 years ago. So, I mean, you're going to see some of that. They'll try to push for more regulatory issues on banks. But again, the great backstop here, and it's, again, it's something that, we tried, I talked about a great deal in my first term when we had a Democrat Senate and a Democrat president. The House can, they have the votes if they can get everybody together to pass pretty much whatever they want to pass. The problem is it's not going anywhere. So at the end of the day, the question becomes, what is happening on the, sort of the bigger front, and the bigger front is going to be, more of a unfortunate, slowdown from a congressional perspective on regulatory easement, things that we have seen that have helped the economy over the last 2 years. And you're going to see more, pretty much partisan divisive issues that are brought out.
What is he, and I know when I say this, the Democrats having control of Congress this morning, the words shouldn't be upside, but what is the takeaway for Republicans in the House, and how do you think the House Republican members can navigate through these waters and find a positive for your district here? How can we do that?
Well, I think one is, I mean, I think it's taking a cue from the president as well. Look, there's several things Democrats want to do. They don't like certain aspects, but the president wants to do, and several of us have wanted to do. And that could range from immigration, from border control to, to issues of DACA. I mean, those things could actually, the president's talked about those things. So if the president's talked about it, those are the things that we could actually see accomplished. I think you might, the question on cost and price tag for an infrastructure bill, but that is something the president has talked about. I think we could, see some movement on that. Anything to make major changes to the rolling back tax reform or any of that's just not going to happen. So I think the other thing is, if you look from a purely political standpoint, I mean, you're looking at it, is there's going to be a sharp contrast for the president to show in 2 years. Here's what we're trying to do. Here's what we did in the first 2 years. Here's what we couldn't get done because the Democrats took over the House in 2018, and now it's time for us to look for 4 more years. I need a Republican House and a Republican Senate so that we can get back to doing what we did in my first 2 years.
Okay. Well, last question, because I know you have to go and you're talking to a lot of people today. Leadership on the Republican side. You're going to have a minority leader. Paul Ryan has retired. You're going to have a minority leader. And we did not talk a lot about this during the election because I didn't want to get into separating Republicans in two different categories to talk about a House leader or minority leader. So on that side now, we know Jim Jordan, Kevin McCarthy. We know several names out there. Where do you stand, Congressman, and where do you think the minority leadership is going to go in Congress?
Good question, because at this point, I mean, there's several names out there, but nobody has. I mean, phone calls have not been started making because most of us were expecting, of course, to be in a leadership, majority position, not a minority position. So I think McCarthy, Scalise could possibly just sort of, depending on how it works, stay in the position. This is not like a speaker election that goes to the floor. This is something that's internal in the conference. And Jim has not said he wanted to be. I've not heard from Jim yet either. So I think that'll sort of begin to shape itself in the next 48 hours.
Where do you stand? And I'm going to say this because sometimes I'm in a bubble, and I gotta realize that. And I'll just say for you and I both live in a great district. We live in the 9th district, and we live in a conservative district. So I don't want to call us in a bubble, but I do know a lot of the people I talk to in the 9th district. Jordan's name comes up a lot. Have you directly spoke to him, or are you expecting Jim Jordan to call you or these people to call you to try to get your support?
Yeah, at some point they will. I mean, Jim is not, and really nobody has, because we've been focused on the election. So I think you're going to see this. I mean, elections are about the membership, and I think looking back on the past election and where people were working to keep the majority, those kind of things are going to come up. And, look, Scalise, McCarthy did a yeoman's work, raising money, being out all over the place. There's a lot of us who are traveling all the time that actually was in districts in which we were trying to keep or going to keep. I think those are the kind of things that will all be discussed, because at this point in time, we've got to focus. We got to re-gear. We got to refocus and realize that for the next 2 years, policy perspectives are going to be on the back seat. We're not going to be able to do the policy that we were able to do for the last 2 years in particular. So that's where, and I think we'll just see how it goes. But I expect those calls to be happening here pretty soon.
All right. Speaker Ryan, the only thing the media picked up was Speaker Ryan supposedly called the president, asked him to talk about the economy, and the president said this. But the reality, Congressman, is the media did not report on the economy. And nobody ever talks. Nobody talks about it. Congressman, you're busy. You got a lot today. Congratulations. I know it's only a couple hours sleep on your district, but we want to get you back real soon as some of these things get sorted out in Washington to see where Republicans stand and see where we stand here in the 9th district.
Look forward to it. You take care.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we've had Congressman Doug Collins. I had a 10-minute window there. I didn't get a message and say, hey, get off the phone, get off the phone. And that's just a joke. They're very busy. They have scheduled interviews, one right after another, and we have to adhere to that. So I didn't want to push too far. There's scheduled interviews. Congressman Doug Collins in the 9th Congressional District, 180-20. But my concern is the 20 that was out there to vote pulled the lever for Stacey Abrams. So we're going to talk more about that. You heard what the congressman said, and it's going to be don't get stressed, folks. Let me give you the best news all morning long. Even to my Democrat friends that even tuned in to hear what Doug Collins said, because there was 20-some thousand of you, or 50-some thousand of you, or whatever, that voted for Josh McCall. So you out there, even Democrats, even people that voted for Stacey Abrams, even Josh McCall voters, Rick Day voters, no matter who you voted for, let me give you the best news of all this morning. Donald J. Trump is still President of the United States. I'm going to take a break, and I'll be right back.